that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good morning. Welcome to Expat Insights. I'm your host Raju Mandhian. Here at Expat Insights, we take external views of internal successes by foreigners, expats, and immigrants who have made Philippines their home and are doing good in the Philippines. This Friday morning on Expat Insights, we have a Canadian Filipino guest, and he's been in the country for almost 30 years, in and out, and he is a coach and also the president of Chalice International.
Regional Director.
Regional Director for Chalice, and he's a facilitator for PSI, which stands for Purposeful Stewardship Institute of the Philippines. And he is here today to talk to us about win-win. Is it really possible in this competitive world? How and why, and how do you make this happen? So our guest, Gregory Forbes. Welcome to Expat Insights.
Thank you, Raju.
So 30 years in the Philippines, Greg?
A little more.
Oh,
since 1981.
Wow. And thank you for coming back on Expat Insights. You've been here before. You were here
Yes.
like 15 years ago.
It's just a few years ago.
No, 2 years ago. So, Greg, let's start talking about this subject matter, this philosophy or this positive mentality, whatever you want to call it. Where do you want to start?
Well, we start with the seminar that we teach. We use experiential methods to help people discover more about themselves. Our sort of half-comic idea of people are like tea.
Cha. Okay.
Yeah, you discover the flavor when you put them in hot water.
Okay.
So what that means is in the seminar we put people in situations and
Right.
exercises, and how they do it, we reflect afterwards and discover. So they discover learnings about themselves, about each other. So in the seminar setting, the first parts of the seminar, it's a 4-day seminar. Within the first 2.5 days, it's really about self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the idea is that if you believe in the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious parts of the mind or
What
the
is
thinking.
that?
Well, the conscious is what we're using right now. We're consciously aware of what we're doing, and we're doing things on purpose. It's the reason, logic, and our connection with the world around us through the senses. And we often, again, consciously, that's where we are focusing.
Mm-hmm.
But we teach the understanding that the much bigger part of our mind, and actually has more control than we understand, is the subconscious.
Not unconscious.
They're similar.
Okay.
They're similar. And the superconscious is something we don't delve on too much because it's like the infinity, and you get into religious discussions and all of that, which we don't go for.
It's no man's territory out there.
Unless you want a real argument, then you get because you get into opinion on that.
Okay.
But on the subconscious, more and more work is being done.
Yeah.
At the academic level and the research level, trying to discover the unconscious process.
Yeah.
And so far, we're learning that the biggest power of the mind is the unconscious part. And
lies underground.
Yeah, we're not aware of it.
Okay.
And we can become more aware of that by reflecting on what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do it? Why do people brought up in the same family, for example, why does one become a priest and the other becomes a criminal, or other such contrasts?
No idea.
Right? And so it's not just genetics,
Yeah.
and it's not just environment. So we delve into discovering more and more about how we think.
So what do you deliver? What's the outcome of this 2.5 day or 4 day and studying about the conscious and unconscious? When people walk into your seminar, workshop, whatever. What happens to them post that?
Well, we don't claim any miracles in 4 days.
Right.
But basically an increase in awareness level on self. And causing people to have habits that will lead more to their success by understanding their thought process and why they think that way. And when they do something, stopping and reflecting on why they did it, because during the seminar we discover some of our unconscious programming. And so psychologists have shown basically that in the unconscious mind, the learning and beliefs that we have, we learn largely as a child. By the time you're adult, you have about 95% of your beliefs about the world and about yourself. And again, focus on the word beliefs and not truth. And so we act according to those beliefs, even when they're in the unconscious level.
So you said that they build or practice certain habits. They become aware and they practice certain habits, no? So is think, win-win one of those habits?
Not really.
Okay, but yeah.
Yeah. The win-win concept comes towards the end of the seminar, and at a certain part of the seminar, it's sort of a test that we do. And what we discover, well, I don't want to reveal. It's experiential exercise.
Okay.
But basically, it's a game where you test people. You put them in a situation, and they have to make a decision. And what we discover that many of the decisions we make are based on a deep programming around competitiveness, around scarcity thinking, and self-protection. So a lot of the subconscious beliefs that we have, which we've gotten from a young age, are beliefs that we have that have defended us or allowed us to survive. And at a young age, that works.
Does one of the beliefs, would that be win-lose or lose-win or whichever? Win-lose.
Our wrong belief about competition is that in order for me to win, someone has to lose. And when I say wrong
isn't
belief,
that a fact of life? I mean, again, would that be my belief? I don't know. I mean, I generally believe
it depends on the point of view you take. If you're looking at number of points scored, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're playing sports, basketball is a big one here. It would be pretty boring if you knew that every basketball game was going to end in a draw. Unfortunately, people think that win-win connotes draw.
Okay.
And you can have someone who gets more points than the other person, but can still be win-win.
How is that?
If you play according to the rules,
right.
And so in life, that's play according to the culture's laws, man's laws, and God's laws, whatever you conceive that to be, then that can be win-win, even if you don't get everything you want.
Well, that probably can be right, or would be right from where I'm coming from when you're playing a game. No? But when you're really living the life where money has to be made, points have to be earned, or status has to be achieved, or, I mean, it's a battle out there. So how do I take what I do on a sports field or a playing arena and live with it on the streets?
Well, that's the difficult part. We think win-win, oh, that's simple. You get something, I get something, we go away happy. But in most cases in life, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
I have what I want, and what I want may compete with what you want. And so we get into this frame of mind. In order for me to get what I want, I have to get something of yours. And so in the market, there's this constant bargaining, and what's the right price? And what I believe win-win is, what's a fair price? What's the value that when I want something, what's the value to me? And then if I pay something for that, which is relative to the value I make or I put on it, then that's win-win. And if that's a fair price for the person who's selling it to me, it's win-win.
When it's a material exchange where money is involved, but how about when pride is involved, or my point of view is involved, or the control I have, the control I think I have over life, if that's involved, how about that? How do I give up control or pride?
Okay, well...
How do I
we
get to
normally-
win-win with somebody I don't agree with, like you right now? How do I get the win-win situation?
Well, the challenge is how do you create the win-win without becoming
What do I have to do?
without becoming a doormat,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, all right.
And so, well, in some, a lot of religions and beliefs say, well, love is the answer. And a lot of people think that's a very weak answer.
Oh, I like it. Oh, maybe weak, but I like it.
But I've read a lot of on the topic, and I teach some of it. Some of it's practical. Some of it requires a lot more thinking.
Yeah.
But I'm a great admirer of Stephen Covey and his approach to it. And his last book, the whole book dwells on the concept. So it's not a simple concept. But I like his approach to it, is that the reason win-win is so difficult is because it requires a great deal of creativity. It's not an automatic thing. Our automatic thing is to win at all costs. Because, again, from our programming from young life, we learn self-defense, we learn to survive, and that it's very self-centered. And we're not all very selfish people, but we learn how to protect ourselves. For example, and I have this belief that deep inside of us, as a human creation, and again, you can word that in different ways according to your religious beliefs. For example, I could say these are God's gifts, or we could say this is natural for humans, that we are created to be successful. We've been given, either by nature, by God, according to your beliefs, everything we have to be successful in life. And being successful means getting what you want and having the things you want in life, the quality
So
of life.
assuming that not only you, but the rest of the world has that belief that we are gifted.
Yes.
Huh? And then you also did mention that it requires a great deal of creativity, in the words of Stephen Covey, to employ this.
Okay,
gift,
so
no?
what's
So how
the
do I
gap?
spark off that great deal?
Yeah,
How do I jumpstart it?
What the gap is, we have all of that, but it's been covered over by the programming we get to survive.
Right.
So if, for example, a fundamental value, if you want to put it that way, is honesty.
Okay.
Being honest.
Step one, maybe.
And
yeah.
we learn in life that at an early age, being honest can get us hurt. For example, the children playing at home on a rainy day.
Yeah.
Mother's in the other room. She hears a crash.
Or I ate all the cookies in the jar.
Something like that. And she comes in. Her favorite lamp is broken.
Yeah.
And so she says, "Who did it?" The first time, little boy says, "I'm sorry, Mommy, it was me." So he gets punished.
Right.
And so if that happens a few times, then later on, crash again. They come in, and what happened? Oh, it was her. She did it, pointing to the little sister.
So thus you're saying that bring back the childlike honesty?
No, what
Or
I'm saying is, as children, we start out to be honest.
Yeah.
But in order not to be punished, we learn how to
No,
lie.
thus to spark of that creativity, would I need to bring back the honesty in my dealings with others?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
And I believe that one way the fundamental way of improving all relationships, whether it's your intimate relationships or business, whatever, is what I call hot.
Would that be enough? What if I get?
It's not.
What if I get slapped again?
Well, there's the famous teacher said, "Turn the other cheek."
No, what I'm saying is here to think win-win. If honesty is step one, and I do practice honesty, what is step two?
Continuing. Okay.
Being more honest.
It's win-win is something that requires a lot of work because we've been programmed that win-win doesn't work.
Right.
And I guess my response to that is when someone is a very dedicated win-win person, the impact is almost miraculous. And I look at people like Mahatma Gandhi.
All right.
Like who now is possibly on his deathbed, one of the world's great all-time heroes
Mandela,
is Mandela,
right.
and people like that. But even in sports heroes, which is our most competitive field, people like Michael Jordan, in terms of a basketball player, and a large part of his life, I'm not saying he's a saint, but what I'm saying is he strived to live that way. And when he started, I mean, you can read the history of Michael Jordan, that he didn't even make his high school basketball team. But when he started in the professionals, it was Michael Jordan for himself, and he was winning a lot. But his team wasn't. And it took a very great coach to teach him win-win. In other words, I can win, my team can win.
Right.
And we can win. Now, win-win means following the rules of the game.
That's one, yeah.
And so win-lose is winning by fouling on purpose. If you block a shot, that's still win-win because that's part of the game.
So, Greg, I have a little bit of a handle on this.
Okay.
No? Dedicated effort, honesty, yeah, and everything, yeah. And there are examples, Gandhi, Mandela, and even Jordan. What about the man on the street? These are a rare few. And these are giants, actually. They became giants, maybe because they practiced this, but me, when I don't have bread and butter at home, or when I need to make a living, and it gets in my way, to be honest. It gets in my way to be focused on letting somebody else win. I mean, inside a game and letting my team win is one thing, but the opposite team win, how about that one? People who have done me harm, socially, emotionally, financially sometimes.
That's why the challenge, at the end of a 4-day seminar, the challenge is, this is a nice seminar concept.
Okay.
But you know what? It really doesn't work. That's what people think.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that's what I believe. I wouldn't be here if I...
But it does work. It does.
It does work, but it requires effort. It's not a simple, oh, now I know win-win, now I'll just do it.
All right.
It requires effort and thought. Now, the other side of my life, my day job, if you like, you mentioned
Chalice.
Regional Director of Chalice.
Chalice.
Which is it's a Catholic organization in Canada. It's a small organization that does fundraising for child sponsorship. And we have about 5,000 children in the Philippines which are sponsored, and partners operate those projects. The basic intention is to have poor children go to school and be able to eat and have some of the benefits of life. Now, when I just got back from Samar, northern Samar, which is a very poor part of the country, and it's very difficult emotionally to see the situation that some children have to live in. And it challenges my belief on this whole win-win. Because, like you're saying, I have to get what I need. And to keep from starving to death, can I be win-win?
Yeah.
Well, again, depending on your belief, but I believe that there is an abundance in the world.
Right.
And someone once said, I forget where I picked this up, but if you measured the number of dollars, if you could count all the dollars in the world, there is enough dollars in the world for every man, woman, and child to be a millionaire.
Or enough land and water.
The problem is distribution.
Yeah.
So my belief is if more and more people discover, number one, there is abundance, we wouldn't be so competitive. By the way, we misunderstand the word competitive.
No.
If you go back, and I don't know very many Latin words, but you go back to the original derivation of the word competition is competere, which basically is interpreted as to strive together.
Oh.
Now,
say that again,
competere.
Competere?
Yeah.
Like in entrepreneurs?
Yes.
The trait in entrepreneurs?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So, it means to strive together or to strive with. Comp means with. Through the years, we've translated it to mean to strive against. And there's been instances where striving together has been forced. A few years ago, maybe some of the business people from 20 or I'm losing track of time.
Enron.
No, when the technology was developing in media, and there was a double track of VHS and what's the other?
Betamax,
Yeah. And VHS. And then the new one came up, the disc. And the industry, without any government or other intervention, the industry got together and said, we're competing against each other.
Right.
And so they came up with a uniform system, and within that uniform system, compete on the quality of that,
Right.
rather than on the modes. Because the one that's losing is the customer. He has to buy a different machine if he wants the different.
That makes sense. Globally, it makes sense. You know, like the metric system and the British
So,
system, or Apple and Microsoft, it still makes sense that they come together. No?
During the 90s, there was a word that was developed in the business world called co-opetition,
Yeah, I know.
which is similar to that. And for me, it's the beginning of win-win. Now, to go back to the Stephen Covey, in that latest book, before he died.
Find your voice.
No, it was...
Date habit.
No, there was
one more?
The more recent one. It's called The Third Alternative.
Oh.
And the third alternative is win-win. And he's saying we stay at the two alternatives. I have my position, you have your position, we meet. And so in the world of whether it's politics, business, or whatever else, we have this terrible word, according to Covey, called compromise.
Oh.
You have management and unions.
Give up, as in like
And
sacrifice.
you have peace negotiations. And, all.
Yeah.
And Stephen Covey calls compromise lose-lose.
Doormat.
Lose-lose.
Yeah.
And see, in the win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, all of that, win-lose and lose-win are short-term.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you will wind up with lose-lose. Both will lose.
Right,
And compromise is a lose-lose proposition, because I have to give up something, you have to give up something, neither one of us are satisfied, and it's a guarantee that...
Long-term, big picture.
Yeah, guarantee that down the road we're going to meet again,
Yeah.
and we'll compromise again, and we will always be doing that. Now,
Greg.
in here, yeah, okay.
We getting close to closing time. One question.
Okay.
I see that you believe in this stuff, this principle, and I think, yes, it works for a lot of people, and yes, maybe it'll be the solution to world's problem. Now, in your lifetime, have you ever doubted this own belief of yours?
Oh,
Recently,
I have.
yeah?
I have, and I see it. It takes faith for me
Yeah.
that this is possible. And the way it's possible, as described by Covey, is self-discovery, self-knowledge. And he has a step-by-step process where you go and look at your position, and you understand your position at a very deep level. What are all my beliefs? What is everything about me?
Why am I wanting
Why am
this?
I here?
Yeah.
Then the person who has the opposite belief, they do the same thing. And then you come together and you exchange. Okay, I'm going to tell you all about my side.
Yeah.
And then I have you repeat back to me what I just said so that I know you understand it, and vice versa. Now we both understand each other's position. And then I ask the question, are you willing to meet with me and we will come up with something that is more than what I want and more than what you want? And that's when the creative process comes in.
Okay, so
And so win-win is, there's a lot of work, it's very difficult, but when it works, it is so powerful. And so that's my belief.
Greg, thank you
Okay.
very much for being on Expat Insights. I'm
Okay.
going to try and think about this. If I succeed, I'll give you a call.
Okay,
Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
that was Greg Forbes, facilitator for PSI, talking about win-win. I hope you're convinced, and if you are convinced, practice it. So we'll take a break, and we'll come back with Professor, teacher Ernie Turner, the CEO of LIM LLC USA, and he's going to talk about gentle interventions. So stay watching. This is Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandian.